just having a conversation, I'm sure many of you have, of how long you can say Happy New Year for. But if I can get away with it, Happy New Year. I suspect as a new year begins, there's many things in our hearts and minds, many people that we're thinking of, many things perhaps we hope for, many things that feel like they're important, many things that we feel like they're currently unfathomable, things we're thankful for, things that weigh heavy. And so perhaps before I lead us in prayer, we can give ourselves the gift of just a few seconds of stillness and quiet to take hold within us of the things that matter most to us in this moment and this setting. Almighty God, as we gather here this evening, we bring our community before you. We thank you once more for all who work for the good of our community. Those who work to keep us safe, those who work to put an arm around others, to meet others in their time of need. Lord, we thank you for the things that go unseen, but they make a difference to the lives of people within our community. Lord, as we take hold within us again and at the start of this new year, the things we seek to do, the ways we seek to serve our community, we pray that you will give wisdom and courage. Lord, we ask your blessing on the younger folks in our community. We thank you for all they continue to teach us about what it means to live in our world. We pray that all the young people nurtured in this community will find directions that lead them into the fullness of life. And this day, Lord, we pray for the most vulnerable among us. And we pray that you may help us to find ways for them to know light and love and peace. And so, Lord, I ask your blessing on members of this council. Will you guide their words, their thoughts, and their actions? And we ask your blessing on our community this day. Amen. Okay.
Just before we go, Laura, just to say, this is the last time we'll see Laura for a while. She's going off on sabbatical for 3 months, so do enjoy it. I hope you feel really refreshed when you come back, and we'll see you in May when hopefully it's summer or spring. The weather's better, so find yourself somewhere nice to go.
Thank you so much. My colleague Giles will be stepping into some of these moments. So thank you.
Thank you then, Laura.
Thank you.
Do sit down, everybody. Just wanted to do that. Declare the meeting open, and I invite the town clerk to give us any apologies.
Yes, Chairman, councillors, Mrs. Fellows, Della, and James.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest. Item 3, to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of the council held on 16th of December 2024 at the council chamber here at St Richard's House. Can I ask Brooks will support that? Can I ask for a second there?
I'm happy to second.
Councillor Bowden, and all those in favour? Any against? Carried unanimously, thank you. Moving swiftly on to Mayor's announcements. Firstly, I welcome everyone to our first meeting of 2025. It's particularly good to see Councillor Davidson back with us after his illnesses, and welcome back, Dave. I'm sure you'll make your usual contributions to our meetings, and they're always well worth listening to. So we look forward to them. Got your hands up already.
Chair, I went to Roy Morris Dental Surgeon today, and outside it says, "A smile says everything."
Excellent. Thank you. That's what we want. Thank you. The last major event I attended as Mayor in 2024 was the Christmas meal for the Heritage Centre volunteers held at the Castle on 19th of December. All 35 volunteers attended this successful event, which was a delightful way of thanking them for their efforts. In particular, it was a pleasure to make a presentation to Jill Braithwaite to celebrate her 40 years as a volunteer. This was quite an achievement. I know she was delighted to receive that. Great contribution to our town. Well done, Jill. 2025 has started quietly in terms of mayoral events, but I have been involved in important developments in a number of areas, several of which will be addressed in the remainder of the meeting. Upcoming events include the Dementia Awareness event at 29th of January, organised by the CDS, and the Honorary Freeman Ceremony for Rebecca Redfern, planned for 17th of February, which includes recognition for Matthew, her younger brother. I hope as many of you as possible will be able to attend the Freeman event. 2025 promises to be an exciting year for the town, with many projects and events in the pipeline. As always, I thank the council staff in the office and the Heritage Centre for the hard work they've already done towards ensuring the success of these initiatives. That concludes my announcement for today. Thank you. Now we have a full meeting. Moving on to item 6, a report from the high school. Do we have one? Yes, we do. Right. Do come and stand at the front here. That'd be very helpful.
It's 5.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I've gone the wrong way. Sorry. Apologies. Yeah. I ticked off. I didn't actually ask you if you invite yourself. Sorry. So item 5 is policing in Droitwich Spa. Receive report on policing matters in Droitwich Spa. We'd like to hear your report.
Hello.
I think the youth people would like to hear this anyway, so yes.
Yeah, that's me. As you'll be aware, there was an increase of incidents in regards to theft of motor vehicle and especially motorbikes, mainly on the accidents over the December period. I have sent a record of incidents to the mayors and also the councillors. There are a lot of incidents which are currently ongoing. In regards to majority of the incidents, I can let you know that we have arrested. So 3 people have been arrested on suspicion of various thefts. 1 person was arrested in regards to handling stolen property. 2 adults and 2 children will be issued with CPNWs, which are community protection warning notices, in regards to their behaviour on the residents. Obviously, I can't give you any information on those, but that is in sort of progress. 1 warrant was also completed in regards to those, in which case 2 motorbikes which were stolen on the 28th was taken, and that warrant was completed in Worcester, and 1 man was arrested. I can't comment about ongoing investigations, as you can understand. I know previously you've asked for incidents of violence offences, which previously have included the domestic element. I've gone through it, and for Droitwich there was only 4 incidents of violence which were non-domestic, so that's in the whole of Droitwich area, east, west and town, so that's a huge positive. It's a very low number, especially as it was the Christmas period and people get too drunk. Is there any questions which anybody would like to ask?
Any questions to Councillor Davison?
2 things. One relating to that. Perhaps we told us what CPO thing means.
A community protection notice warning.
And could you put there are some other abbreviations. Could you put a little glossary at the bottom about what some of these things stand?
Of course,
If
yes,
possible.
sorry. Yeah,
And then you could leave it on every month, sort of thing.
yeah, no, that's fine. So a community protection warning notice. So that is it's basically, how to explain it? So where you'd have as though previously, we would start with a community protection notice where we warn someone of their
It
behaviour.
was more about what the initials actually say, you know.
Yeah.
After that, we can find out. So
Yeah.
don't go to too much trouble. The other thing, I did bump into your sergeant the other day.
Yeah.
And she said she would send, and she probably has, because I didn't expect her to remember something in the street. But, because of all the negative postings about the police that appear on anti-social media.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is,
antisocial.
I suggested that the councillors should have a few leaflets or something about neighbourhood alert that they can give or
Neighbourhood
email.
matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To their contacts, so that more people can receive the neighbourhood alerts,
Yes.
and therefore, sorry, you want them to know,
Yeah.
rather than what people are imagining or conjecturing or just sitting there on pot or whatever.
Posting everything
Posting,
and
yeah,
everything
yeah.
because there's no record.
So she said she'd run off quite a lot and give us all a few.
Yeah.
But that's for the future now, so
Yeah.
just a reminder really.
Yeah, so she did ask me to tell you about neighbourhood matters. I
Yeah.
believe a lot of councillors are already signed up to it.
Yeah,
So neighbourhood matters is the police messaging service. So basically, we send out updates if there could be appeals. It could be that we're giving you crime advice. If there's a spike in incidents in the area, we'll let you know because then at least you can try and protect yourself, give or take, in regards to it.
but
So,
to expand it to our contacts as well, how to do that.
okie dokie, I can bring all the details in, but if for example, if you just said, if you search neighbourhood matters, for policing, it will come up with our
How
stuff
did you
anyway, but I can sort you out some leaflets, that's not an issue.
Some people don't use the internet much.
They don't know, I don't blame them. if I'm honest. In regards to the town, I've been working with a lot of the businesses on the town, there has been a decrease in thefts. A couple of people have been charged, one person was arrested yesterday. That person was from Birmingham and it's thought that he's possibly to be deported in regards to whatever's going on there, because I don't really know, so I'm not commenting on that.
Thank you very much for that. Are there any more? Yes, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you.
And Councillor Franks.
Thank you. You may not be able to answer this immediately, but an incident occurred which I only found out about when it was too late to sort of contact you.
Yeah.
But it was basically a member of the public reported somebody in the Lido Park flying a drone,
Okay,
and I thought that was not legal, but you may be able to.
there's lots of different legalities, I believe if it's under a certain amount of weight, they're allowed to fly them. I don't know the specifics because I don't.
Well.
But I can get the specifics sent over
Well.
to you.
It wasn't so much of that because obviously I can, obviously you wouldn't know how big it was, kind of, you just saw somebody flying a drone. But
Yeah.
I just wondered if that was something that should have been reported, perhaps.
People can report it, yeah?
Yeah.
They can report it via 101 or online, and we can look into it,
Yeah.
but it depends what type of drone it is, and there's lots of.
Well, thank you for that. It doesn't surprise me that the law is always very complicated. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Franks.
I was just looking at, obviously, we talked the other night and we know you can't be at every place at all times and magically stop crime. And I was just wondering if the council could maybe start a conversation with themselves around having mobile CCTV systems. Because I think there's plenty of us would have areas we would like these systems to be pointing at. Even if we get on top of the big ticket items like the thefts that have been occurring, that even catching people who are littering and all the rest of it. It's just
So that would be more with Witchaven, they have mobile CCTV cameras, which they do put up, and there's already council CCTV, which is in the town centre.
But is that mobile in terms of it can be moved around?
So there's set places, but also the council do have mobile ones, which they put up where there is an increase. So previously, we've asked for one on Stainers Avenue, on the corner of Paxton in regards to some incidents there. So they do have a couple of free cameras which they move about.
Oh, you think as a district councillor, I'd know that, but no, they didn't tell me anything.
Yeah, so, but when you ask them about it, you have to sort of give them a pinpoint exactly. You also have to analyse and see how many lampposts there is, if they're tall enough. There's lots of bits which go into it before they'll actually come and survey a site to see if they can put a temporary camera there.
It's going to be a lot of red tape and hassle, to be honest. But,
It depends what you want it for. It's unlikely that they'll put it there for littering, if I'm completely honest. But they will put it in there if there's an increase in ASB or different incidents are happening. So
would the police not consider having their own systems?
how much funds in this? That's
Well,
all
I
I'm
know,
saying.
but that's what I mean about starting the conversation.
Yeah.
How, the operational aspects, the maintenance, the costs, etc. That would be a good conversation to have, really.
I can ask.
Thank you very much, Councillor Morris and Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Franks, it's community safety, so it's Rob Rich. Under community safety, I think they operate out of Malvern, so that's probably why we don't know a lot of Bridgend.
What's his name, sorry?
Rob Rich.
Oh, good, thank you.
Thank you for all the positive action the police have taken over the Christmas period and with the burglaries. But notwithstanding the motorcycle thefts, has crime increased in the Droitwich area of late?
Although, if we take out the motorbikes, no, it hasn't.
Okay.
I think exactly as most things, stuff is a lot more advertised on social media and everybody's willing to not report it to the police, but if I report it to social media, then the police are gonna know about it, which is quite annoying, but that's where life is. So in regards to the other stats, they haven't gone up, it's just we've had an issue which I personally believe has started with the kids messing about and going a bit far compared to what they normally would. And then because people have been so active on social media, people from Worcester have come over and then committed thefts. 2 of the arrests, well, 1 warrant and a different arrest was both from Worcester people who have come over to commit those offences. But it's likely those offences have only happened because people have advertised on Facebook that the kids are messing about and they're stealing motorbikes, and they've jumped on the bandwagon, if that makes any sense. Because all they'll do is blame it on the kids and go, oh, it's the kids who are doing it.
Yeah, thank you for that. There was a big request for a public meeting, because people were saying, they were getting sort of affected by it all going on, believing it was getting bigger and bigger. But the town clerks kindly organised the police and crime commissioner and the police, I think, to be at the town meeting on the 10th of March, and the public will be able to ask questions there.
Yeah.
And that's probably a good place to make sure we've got the neighbourhood matters as well.
Councillor Duffy, then Councillor Brazier.
Councillor Morris has answered most of mine. I was going to say Rob Rich as well. I thought it was the environmental crimes, that's their team, but they're quite good ones. They don't need attaching to a lamppost or anything. They're quite very mobile battery units. So I know they're mostly used around the lanes for trying to catch fly tipping, which is why they have to be entirely mobile. But certainly support any calls to have them in town trying to capture things here as well.
Yeah, no, thanks for the
Councillor Brazier.
Previously, the report was split into wards and different acts, and now we just get a list of what's going on.
I've just sent you that list because normally we come here every 3 months. Obviously, I came in December.
Okay.
And because most of the incidents that have happened, and that is most sort of at people's heart, is the motorbike thefts,
Okay.
which is why I've concentrated on those. And I know previously you asked about violence, which is why I did those. I haven't had time to go through them all and do the detailed report like previously.
Will that continue in the future as in wards?
Yes.
Because that's more useful for councillors to
Yes.
see happening in their area?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any more questions? Thank you. Thank you very much for that very thorough report. And it's obviously a great concern to everybody, the situation. So many thanks for that.
I'm going to leave now.
Yes,
Okay.
fine.
I'm sure it's
Yeah,
it's
we'll do
first.
That's okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now really it is item 6, the high school. I do apologise for a slight hiatus earlier.
Hi, my name is B. I'm on the 6th form council at high school. There's got a few things that I'd like to update you on that we've done in 2024-2025 academic year so far. So recently we've got a new head of 6th form, Mrs. Evans. We think she's made a really successful start to her time at the high school. We'd like to thank her for everything she's done so far. In October we had our Charities Week, which ended the first half term. That was really successful for us, and as a collective of the whole school, we made just under £9,000, which is the best we've ever done in the history of Charities Week. We're very happy with that because in previous years we've had like bank supports, like Lloyds Bank in previous years. So we didn't have any like fundraising like that this year. We just had like, that was what we accumulated in the week. So that went to our partner school in Kenya. We had 2 other charities as well, the local and national charities. I can't quite remember what they were this year, but we also supported Cancer Research UK, where 3 people in our year shared their heads. And then we also have the Graham Trevor Trophy, which we do every year, which is for cancer research as well. Just coming up to Christmas, the whole school did a food bank donation, and in total we collected 869 items, and there's a hamper to send off the food bank. That also goes alongside the Christmas hampers for the care homes, which were then raffled off in the care homes through activities. We got some really good response there, and they were really happy with like the support from the school into the community. We've also got the Lord Mayor's quiz, which we sent 2 quiz teams off to Birmingham this year, and through our successful quiz efforts, we made £1,500 from the quiz. So that's been reimbursed into items for the school, and specifically for the 6th form. So we got a new microwave and new coffee machines, which may seem a bit peculiar, but we're really into improving the general 6th form community, and a lot of students want to go off-site food, but we try to keep everyone on site, and through these endeavours we hope that we really can create that community we're looking for. And then more of the lower school thing, Mr. Brooke would like me to highlight the Willow Court Farmhouse project that's been going on the house in the Westons, the old farmhouse. So that's just been completed. We've also got some success he'd like to highlight from the lower school. We've got one of the boys in year 10 who's recently been part of an F1 programme, and he's, correct me if I'm wrong, the F1, is it? Yeah. And he's got really high up in that, and he's got onto a team now. We've also got the work experience for the year 11s as well. And yeah, that's everything Mr. Brooke would like me to say today.
Yeah, have you got any questions?
Yeah, well done.
No, don't go away. Don't go away yet. Don't go away yet. I've got to ask, what kind of things in your students do you all cook in the microwave?
In the microwave, oh, so meal prep's a big thing in our year at the moment. So that's where you make the same meal, and then you have it like every day. So I know in my history class today we were talking about who's got Chinese for lunch, and it was like who's heating their Chinese up in the microwave. But it's important because obviously we have the school catering, but it's so much more cost effective for students nowadays, the microwave.
That was very diplomatic, that was. I can't thank you enough for your report. Absolutely brilliant to hear you raised all this money and all this amount, and your sense of society and community. Just as a question from me, what do you make of what's going on with the police report you heard? You find that quite dispiriting? Or?
So, it might sound really sheltered, but where I live, like I don't really experience it much. I sort of just like walk to school, you know, come home. I'm quite in a fortunate position there, but I would say my friends who are in a slightly different position to me, they said it can be quite antisocial. You know, you walk down the street and someone's like, there's people running about and they're like, oh, but they're clearly like groups of, you know, antisocial behaviour going on. I didn't realise how much of an issue it was, the motorcycles. Obviously, you see it on social media, but I'm going to just scroll past it without sounding really naive. But you do see people bang on about it online. And I do think it is important because everything does get dramatised online. It is like important, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's really, really realistic to have the police here and like hear about it. These statistics, I don't think it gets shared enough with the young people of Droitwich. Not the young people that I know in the 6th form, but I feel like a lot of the antisocial behaviour is also in the high street. I've noticed when like, you know, shop windows and that gets smashed, and I think that gets more noticed by like our generation, like physically seeing it rather than it being online. If that makes sense.
Mr. Davies.
Did you say you entered a team into a quiz?
Yeah.
Do you realise what's on tonight?
Yeah,
Master.
yeah. My sister's at home doing it right now. University Challenge, yeah.
We're sorry that you've had to miss that.
Okay.
We'd like, as councillors, we think we should have a quiz to raise money. I'm sure we all agree. And we look forward to getting some tips from you in due course.
Well, go, George, sorry, Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to see if there's any way we could support Charities Week. I mean, I remember getting involved in Charities Week when I was there, a little over 10 years ago. And it seems to have just grown and grown in success since then. Could you ever see it expanding beyond the borders of the high school? Is there anything that we could offer as a council or as a town to facilitate further growth, further success?
That's a really good question. Well, the previous academic year when I was in lower SIP, they had made a massive target of 8.5 grand, and they reached that. And this year, the teacher's like, oh, don't expect too much. 8.5 grand's a lot of money from 1,200 kids. And then when we got to nearly 9 grand, they were like, wow, this is a lot of money. And honestly, think it's quite a shame because obviously all the banks and that shut down in Droitwich. And we did contact some local companies, but it was quite hard asking for money. But I feel like the way that we could bring it outside of the high school, we could get more small businesses in Droitwich in. So I'm not going to name any companies we contacted, but there's a lot of bigger independent businesses that run in Droitwich and Worcester. And I feel like that would be the way to get it in. But also you could have, if we did promote it more, then it'd be more town centre rather than Droitwich. That might encourage other children in the lower of the pyramid to get inspired into our fundraising efforts.
Councillor Brooks and Councillor.
Just a question, to get more people involved, maybe perhaps on your week, you could have an evening or something on the weekend that's in the town, the Lido, where your school can all go around, but then maybe outside businesses could then, and us all could also attend and donate, give money, whatever, a fake kind of thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I think we're not very successful, not to diss the high school. I think we're not very successful at getting all the schools together at once. Miss Truman may correct me on this, but I feel like when I was in year 7, I participated, this seems really old, the big switch off. That was one of the events that I piloted in year 7. And I was like, it's so nice to work with all these sixth formers and they can so much change. And I just feel like your idea of a fate would be really good because then not only the younger generation, but also the adults that aren't as much involved in the sixth form can get involved. I think that would be good. You could hold it on the field at Droitwich because there's massive on the track. So.
Councillor Franks.
Well, I just want to expand on this because I think it's a fantastic idea, to be honest. You've done a good one, George. Yeah, because I do think maybe the school could come up with some ideas for the council on how we could potentially help these and expand out. And I mean, obviously, what we could do is have some stockades where the public get to throw stuff at us. There's an awful lot of money.
That's a popular school. They have stocks. They have stocks, and they bring them out, and it's throw a bucket of water and a wet sponge at the members of staff, and it goes down quite well each year.
I'm sure councils will get even more.
I see, seriously, I think the group that we go to, the Blend Sports in Lakewood, that's got business people, and we could actually raise that. I'm happy with putting that in. Well, many thanks for that fantastic report.
Yeah.
And your school can be very proud of your contribution to our meeting.
Yeah.
And I think we'll pass it on actually to Mr. Brooks and the school. So many thanks for coming.
If you would like her to speak to the sixth form more, obviously it's quite hard because I'm in the outgoing year group, but I could definitely feed it back to the group below about maybe organising something for next summer, because it's quite late now to do it in the academic year. It takes a long time to organise stuff, as you probably all know. But for next Charities Week to maybe have a big event in the town beforehand. So I know they start planning it from June onwards, so yeah.
Thank you very much, that's great, thank you. You know what made me feel very old then? Is when Councillor Duffy said it's 10 years since he left the school. Anyway, thank you very much, that was great. Have we got something from the Youth Council? Yes. Oh, we're there. Oh, right, great, sorry, yes.
Hi everyone. So we're obviously in our second year now of trying to rally the troops and get all of the pyramid together in youth council, which is going really well. Slowly but surely, it's becoming a bit more student-led, and hopefully we get it into a position where it's entirely student-led, whilst they grow in confidence and the chair kind of develops some more leadership skills. So we've got quite a young chair, they're in year 8. And it's really nice to see her speak to everyone at sessions. So we're actually thinking that we're going to expand the term so that because it's only 6 meetings a year, because schools can only really commit to once a half term in terms of staffing and travel and such like. So we're thinking about expanding that term just to give those leaders a bit more of a chance to kind of take ownership of the youth council and where it's going to go. So in terms of past meetings, they recently went to Envirosort together on a school trip, or schools trip, should I say. And they learned loads about recycling, lots of interesting facts about energy. For example, did you know that the UK uses 227,000 miles of wrapping paper every year for Christmas? But the moon is only 238,000 miles, so we're nearly at the moon in wrapping paper every year. So things like that, they learned lots of things like that, and they said it was incredibly smelly, but they had a really good time at the recycling sort, and there's loads of energy from Jenny, and they just had a great time. And they're excited to try and figure out how to share some of that information with their peers and further out in schools. And we also sent lots of thank you cards and letters to over 17 organisations, such as emergency services, food banks, military services, staff at care homes and St. Luke's Hospice, sending them, Christmas cards and just general kind of Thanksgiving time, which I know is really well received. We've actually had a few thank yous back, which is really nice. And they were kind of big, hefty envelopes with thank you cards in from lots of all the schools, kind of all delivered at once. So that was really nice, and we'll hope to do that again in the future. We have set dates for the meetings for the rest of the academic year. So on February the 4th, we're going to have a session to talk about how we're going to share what we've learned from Envirosort. And I imagine they might want to put some kind of information pack together, that kind of thing, that we'll actually do in that session, or at least start in that session to get that out. On March the 3rd, they've got a trip to Witchaven, the Civic Centre, led by Tracy Perkins and Leonie Silk. They've got plans included things like budgeting exercises, environment workshops, and a chance to question and interview members of the council, which they'll be looking forward to. April the 30th, we've got a session booked in with Ruby Tuesday to write letters and hopefully just to connect with the local community, possibly to care homes and such like. And we're all trying to have a nice session where we all write some letters to send out to the local community. And on June 24th, the final session of the year, discussing plans for the future possibly, but there's definitely room to kind of work on a final project of the year that's yet to be decided, which could be to see what all the schools could do for Charities Week possibly. And our head teacher, Mr. Brooke, also plans to accompany some students to the Witchaven Council meeting on 26th of Feb to present their petition and ideas for the Whitwich Youth Club. And also we do hope for your blessing and your support to run the Teen Awards again this year, hopefully in March, because that was just a really nice opportunity to share some great things that the young people are doing. Thanks.
Any questions? You've been very comprehensive there, actually. I think David.
Yes, sorry.
See how we missed it.
Well, very good. Thanks for a couple of years, even though I left school 61 years ago. Can you tell us a bit more about what the youth council is? Is it just the schools, or does it go older than that, up to people who've left school? Where does youth start?
It's about what we can bring together as organisations. So it doesn't really go beyond the schools. Of course, we do have Councillor Morris and Leonie Silk and often come as well. Sometimes we have other visitors that come in to ask them about certain things. obviously, the wider it gets, almost the more tricky it is to handle as a school, particularly in terms of things like safeguarding and such like that. So there's kind of quite a lot of red tape in terms of kind of making it a lot wider than that. However, what is really nice, obviously, it's in its early stages, really. I mean, it's only been about a year from next month that we've actually been meeting every half term. And at the moment, we're kind of just trying to get the students to find their voices, especially some of the young ones that, you know, in year 2 and things like that. We want kind of their ideas. And I think keeping it within the schools, it just means that they might have more of a chance to fill that space with their own thoughts and ideas.
Councillor Franks.
Yeah, it's just to introduce myself, really. Neil Franks, I'm Town Councillor and District Councillor for Droitwich East. It was just really to say that I'm happy to support students as well and happy to be involved in any way that you want. I did write to the teacher, but I will back to yeah, more than happy to get involved. Yeah, and you can write your details.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Could you, could I ask, could you let Mark know, and Jane, when your meetings are, because I'd like as mayor to come to one of them. I won't be able to afford them. What time of day do you have them?
9 to 11, or 9:30 to 11.
In the morning, obviously, yes. Silly question. So I probably could do it. Yeah. Thank you for that. Councillor Morris.
Yeah, I'd just like to pay tribute to Ms. Drew, to Maisie, because she's really established the Youth Council again after COVID. And this time round, you know, we talked about the different schools. It includes first schools, middle schools, high school, all the pyramid schools within the Droitwich area. And it's about 4 or 5 youngsters from each of the schools that come along. It is quite formidable and quite a strength that we potentially have in the town that I don't think is matched anywhere else, really. I think it's pretty unique, and it has something that we should support. Totally, but I pay tribute to Maisie for.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah. So, I could come on to your meeting with that. I hope you'll let me come.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, that's very kind. So, the 4th of February. Thank you very much. Any more questions before we? Well, many thanks to you, Anthony, for your contribution. We had a really positive discussion we've had there.
Thank
the
you.
2 of you, so many thanks for that. Having had that positive discussion, we're going on to another one. Just to an update on the Olympic on the Freeman ceremony. Yes.
Thank you, Chairman. So, as it's outlined on the agenda, the ceremony on 17th February will be Rebecca Redfern to confer honorary Freeman and then to present a certificate of achievement to her brother, the young brother Matthew. For Matt Richards, we will need a different date later in the year due to his overseas sporting programme. And similarly, I think it will be the same for Jade Shackles for this recognition for her, because she's currently in Australia and then she's going to Canada competing. So it's proving very difficult to align a date when everybody's available. So if we do Rebecca and Matthew to start with, and then we'll reconvene when we know their availability later in the year. Because it's a small ceremony as well, we're going to do it here. Their party of preferred guests and families is 12, up to 12 people. So it will be sort of a smaller ceremony than what we've done in the past. But if councillors can make it, it would be good. And we have suggested inviting people from the Dolphins and possibly the Sports Centre as well, because that's the origin of their training.
The former head of UK swimming was a Dolphin, David Sparks. We might be able to get hold of him, but I think he lives in Germany. I have a contact sort of with him. Yeah.
Yes, well,
so it'll be a formal ceremony. It takes about 20 minutes or so, and then an informal reception, drinks, nibbles. So it should be
very pleasant.
Thank
you very much for that. That's great. Yes. Right, then. Any more questions on that? I hope as many of us can get there. Item 9, back to earth with a bump actually. Council estimates on precept for 2025-26. can leave us to introduce that.
Yes, Chairman, so this really just recaps back to last week and the two committees. Part A, the recommendation for both was carried forward from CNA and Resources last week. So Part A is a community and amenities part of the estimates and budget. And that includes fees, commissions, community and amenities grants as well. So we can take that one, and then the second one is a remainder, which is a resources committee, and that includes the precept as well. So if we could just vote on both, that would
Do we
be
need to do them separately or together?
separately.
Separately. So we're looking at A, first of all, can I have a proposer that we accept A? Councillor Duffy and Councillor Mrs. Bowden. All those in favour? Any against? I have to say Councillor Mrs. Bowden and Councillor Humphreys, because we have missed her as well. You're glaring at me, aren't you? Okay.
So that's the community and amenities half, and then the rest is resources and the precept.
And then B, so can we have a proposer for section B? Councillor Hopkins, seconded by Councillor Brooks. All those in favour? Any against? No, thank you very much, that's carried unanimously.
So we can send those off.
Send those off, yeah, that's great. Thanks for all the efforts of everybody involved with that.
Absolutely.
I know it's a major thing to do at this time of year, isn't it? So well done, thank you very much. Item 10, to conceive and consider the minutes of the undermentioned meetings. Unless there's anybody got a problem with these, I suggest we move them en bloc. Councillor Duffy, put a second over that. Councillor Brazier. All those in favour? All those against? Thank you. Carried unanimously. And I think we're going to spend a bit of time on county council matters, because we've got a couple of important things to hear about.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've
Start.
got a double A. Yes. Shall I go first, Richard?
I think it should be first.
I think so, yeah. Okay. Well, you will have seen, I'm sure you've all heard about us becoming a unitary council. And so, first of all, there's a handout going around now, so you haven't got to worry too much about making notes, but it covers the essentials there. Basically, the government decided just before Christmas that they were going to insist that we became a unitary authority. And I want to be quite clear on that. There's no ifs or buts. You know, we are going to become a unitary authority. The only thing that could be done, and this is what the leader of the county council, Simon Geraghty, did. He and the chief exec wrote to the government saying that we wanted to be involved in the process and go ahead. Simply because we have to go ahead. And obviously, if we didn't get involved in the process, then things would be decided in Whitehall and just we'd be told what we were doing. So it seemed far better to try and make the most of the opportunity and actually influence as much as we can what happens. So basically, at this stage, the request went in to postpone elections scheduled for May. And the reason for that was it was become a nonsense to spend about 70 grand on an election and then within a year have to have another election. You know, gained nothing. So that's the request went into government to postpone elections scheduled for May. The idea of this was to fully focus on working together and working up proposals to try and implement, because again, the government has insisted on a very ambitious timescale. But at the moment, so what we're looking at is the timescale is to see a new shadow authority, as they call it, elected in May 26. So the elections have been put back a year. And then, of course, all the councils in Worcestershire now, the county council and there's the district council, Wychavon and the other district councils, will end in 27. So that's really the position we're in. And just for your information, so the handout there is the two letters that were written, the one from Councillor Day for Wychavon and the one from Simon Geraghty. And there's also a statement from Simon Geraghty explaining really what I was just alluding to there about why it's being done and where it's all going. I hope that sort of at least brings everyone up to date so you know what's happening. It's mentioned that, of course, it was 50 years since the last major rework of the council. That's one where we were actually formed, which we were just celebrating. So obviously, the effect on that, we're not sure what effect all of this will have on the town council. but we're certainly getting information and looking into that. But I think it's important that, again, that we contact the district council and the county council and basically say that we want to be involved in the process ourselves too. So, because if anything is going to affect this council, we don't know yet, it's too early to find out, but we definitely want to be there, being involved and obviously influence things for the best of our residents. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any points by anybody else? Councillor Franks and Councillor Davies.
Probably got quite a lot related on this. So I'm obviously, my position is I'm completely against what Labour's done. This is an absolute disgrace. They've said that this is the route power to the local level, that it will do the exact opposite. It will push power away from people to much higher levels, and there'll be less councillors doing far more work, and people will get less of a say. If you look at sort of Durham, which is roughly a bit like our area, you've got 120 odd councillors in one council. That means what can you possibly get done as a single councillor in that sort of massive council? I think I would like this council, and if maybe I could bring it as a motion next time, to condemn what Labour have done. I also think it's a bit of a shame there's a real lack of opposition to this. I think Labour are weak. They got in on less than 34% of the vote. It was only through this ridiculous first past the post system that they got such a massive majority of MPs. They are weak. They are even weaker now because their polling is right down and they've done nothing to help themselves. So I think we could unite as a bit of an opposition against this. So I would like to see that. The other thing I'd like to see is us condemning the fact that they have put forward, without even going to county council, by the way, this was done by the leaders of the county council, didn't even ask the actual county council itself if they wanted to postpone elections. We shouldn't be postponing elections. People have voted on a 4-year term. So basically, if there's no elections, you then have unelected people making decisions for the rest of us rather than having proper elected officials. So again, I would like this town council, personally, and again, if it needs to come into motion, I will do, to condemn the fact that there's been asking for no elections. I also think the town council should consider, again, it could be a motion I bring forward, to ask for a referendum. The people should have a say on these Labour plans. Nobody's asked for it. I've never knocked on the door and somebody said to me, we need to have a unitary council. No one's ever done that. You can ask, people will say, yes, I think there might be some reform of the council sort of thing for X, Y, and Z reasons, but no one said they wanted this. They certainly do not want a metro mayor. That is absolute madness. It's just an absolute nonsense. I could hear all night talking about that one. So again, I would like to see that the council asks for a referendum, so people should have a say on this moving to a unitary council, or I would like to see us not moving to a unitary council. There is a better plan that we could have instead. Thank you.
If I may. Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Wilkes, come back.
Yeah, just to come back. Yes, you made a lot of valid points on there. The difficulty is that this is going to happen. We have no say in it, rightly or wrongly. It is going to happen. We can't stop the process. So the reason that the county council wrote to get involved with the process is simply trying to make the best of a bad job.
It wasn't the county council writing, it was the leadership of the
Yes,
county council. They
the
did
leader
not have
and
the backing
yes,
of the county council.
the leader and the chief executive simply wrote to become involved in the process. If we hadn't done that, and there was a deadline, there wasn't time to get a council meeting, there was a deadline for the response. The government gave a very, very short deadline. So again, we could have just sat back and had no input at all, or taken that decision to write an answer to that proposal so that we can actually be involved in the discussions. So it was one of those, it was a done deal before we even knew about it until just before Christmas, on a very tight time scale.
Necessarily a done deal if people opposed it and actually come together.
You can't actually oppose it, I'm afraid, but
Sorry.
I wish we could.
Could we express an opinion that goes along with what you said? Because it is actually true what you said. But also accept that it is a done deal and that we've got to do what we've got to do. Some sort of, well, like starting off on the losing side, but still saying we don't like it in principle and so on and so forth. The other thing I was going to say is, are we going to take a one-off hit? How many people are actually going to be made redundant? Early retirement, enhancement of pensions, who's paying for all this? It might save, well, I doubt whether it will. It might save money over a period of, say, 50 years, but what's going to happen now? I'm sure that people who don't want to go or still have a job, where are the reduced costs going to be in the county or wherever?
Basically, they are looking at Whithaven and saying, that's a nice little money earner, that one. They will rip the money out of Whithaven, and if this had come forward earlier, we wouldn't be seeing these enhancements. I totally believe we would not be seeing these enhancements that we can see in our town if this had come in earlier. That money will be ripped away.
Councillor Humphreys.
Now, this is slightly awkward for me as the only Labour councillor on this council, so please don't shout at me. Didn't bring a tin hat. I know it's 50 years since this council was formed, and actually, if we've not had a major review of the local government structure in 50 years, it probably is just about due. And there is I actually agree with the sentiment of this letter in that we should be, at all levels, should be involved in the discussion. If you say, no, I don't want to be involved in that, or I object to this, you take away, not all, but some of your right to influence what happens, and some of your opportunity to influence what happens. So I think I'd be very careful about saying that we oppose it. It's quite happy to say that I'm quite happy if we say we're not happy with it and we don't like it and we wish we weren't in this position. That's totally different. But I think we do need to cooperate, because that's what otherwise we will be left without a choice and without a say and without any influence. So I totally agree with that. I do also believe that there is no harm in reviewing and changing the local government system. A lot of people that I speak to, and I count myself as one of those as well, when I first moved here, I had no clue who did what, because I've not been used to the different layers of local government coming from both London and then Birmingham. So this, I don't see the idea of a problem. Do have a slight, I'll disagree with Keir Starmer on this one. Do have a slight issue with metro mayors and unitary authorities. But I think it's not a bad thing to look at this, to see what we can do. Are we doing this right? Can we do better? And where is there duplication? Whether we can get rid of that duplication and actually make it a smoother process. I think for me, I'm a little bit, I know this is going to sound dreadful, I'm a little bit on the fence with this one. I don't disagree with it. And I think we need to be involved, but I do appreciate the sentiment from Councillor Franks and others.
Councillor Morris, then Councillor Duffy.
Thank you. It is a tricky one, as this. I totally agree with Councillor Franks that ultimately it's less local, and I don't like that at all. I think we'd far better be more local, or as much local as we can be. Why is it less local when the government's saying it's more local? It's because you go to a higher authority. You go from a district to a county-wide potentially, and then to strategic authorities, which is 3 councils, roughly, with a metro mayor. So you go unitary first, which is getting rid of the districts, and then you're bringing 3 councils together to have a metro mayor, and that's the idea that they want, because the government only wants to sit down with 40-odd metro mayors to get a reach over the whole country. That's the idea. So it actually is dragging it nearer the centre than nearer the people, as I see it, in that sense. I am loyal to the district. I think Whithaven does a fantastic job, and it will be really sad to see that go if that's what happens. I defend the leader of the county council in the sense that he was the one that was written to by Jim McMahon, the minister, and asked for the upper tier response. It didn't ask for anybody else's, it asked for the upper tier. The letter went direct to him, effectively the chief executive. So they made their decision based on the fact that it was a diktat, that there are merits going in the first tranche, which were very, very clear. If you go in the first tranche, then that takes out the elections in May. Very much as Councillor Brooks said, you're not going to elect people to abolish the council. It's better that the previous council does the abolishing and you set the councillors up for a new council. So there is sense, although it does deny democracy for a year in that sense and what they're doing. In terms of the unitary, they're saying there has to be 500,000 population. Well, Worcestershire has 610,000. So that is why it's the landscape of the county itself. This isn't county council. County council gets abolished as well. The county council gets abolished, the districts get abolished. It is a new authority that is set up, and that's why it's termed One Worcestershire, because it's collective for the county in itself. I do actually think there will be a bigger role for parishes. Yeah, I think that the way that the government will try and show a more local element is to try and give more powers to parishes. I think that will be their way to try and get nearer to the public in that sense. And remember that the first response by the leader of the county council was an expression of interest only. It wasn't saying it's going to happen and this has to happen this way. It was an expression of interest, and the government gave the 10th of January as a deadline. So it was rushed through. Why the government is rushing it through so much? They've got 4 years, and they're saying they want the whole of England to be unitary with strategic mayors by the end of 4 years, and they've set it on that timetable. So we are being done too, and there's very little choice in this.
Was this in the manifesto? Carl?
I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of the manifesto, unfortunately. It's rather long. But no, I know this has been something that kind of Metro Mayor and reform of local government. I know this has been on the cards. I don't think ordinary local representatives like me knew. I didn't know it was coming. I don't think the electorate did.
Sorry, Councillor, I'm not sorry. Councillor Duffy, it was you next.
Thank you. Yeah, I think the very shared sentiment across the room is that it does feel like it's being pushed through very quickly, and that is very difficult. But for that reason, I'm quite supportive of our county and district leaders putting this forward. So for trying to be ahead of this, have a plan to do this rather than have a plan done to us. I think I'd be very supportive of us trying to follow suit and take a similar sort of lead on if there are differences to be made. We should definitely be part of those making them. And that definitely we should try and see this as an opportunity to devolve more powers to ourselves and to make our voice heard, that there is more that our excellent town council can do for our area, especially if powers are going to be shifted around across different layers. Whether we can put a motion forward now, I'll ask our town clerk whether we could.
No, this is within the county council.
Within the county council, yeah. No. Can we come back to that in a minute? Councillor Brooks.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I'd like to support the sentiment there from Councillor Duffy. As I said earlier, this has been imposed on us. It's going to happen, and we need to look at ways to make the best of it. And I think, obviously, the sensible thing, again, would simply be for us to engage in this process too, and see what opportunities arise to do the best we can for our residents. Again, there'd be no, that wouldn't commit us to a particular course of action, simply that we would get as involved as we can and obviously look for opportunities, and if they are good, we can seize them. So I appreciate we can't actually do a formal motion tonight, but obviously we could bring that forward later on. But in the meantime, I could suggest that our leader actually simply writes expressing an interest in being involved in the process. That commits us to nothing, but it simply means at least we've got an idea of what's happening. At least we know what's happening.
Yeah, did actually read an article about this and saying that local, like our council, would end up having slightly more power than what we've currently got in terms of planning and things like that. So I think as Councillor Morris said, we will have a bit more possible to say on things. At the minute, planning, we technically don't have a say. We can't stop stuff per se, like outright. Whereas I think maybe we might get slightly more from that as an example. That was just an article I read about it.
Councillor Daisy.
At the end of the day, it's what's best for Droitwich and the people of Droitwich, not for us.
Yes.
And that's all we've got to think about, whatever party we're in.
I would be surprised if we get more authority on planning, because part of the government's agenda is to speed up the planning. And that's in the background to this as well, is to try and streamline the system, to try and get everything through a lot quicker.
It's without being overly political, it's not for the first time. It's not what this government are doing, it's the way they've done it. And unfortunately, it's rushed through. Think of winter fuel allowance and all things.
And just to elaborate a little bit on possibilities for ourselves, from the early research that I've done, the idea would be, for example, and this is purely an example, if it was felt it was appropriate for us to take over the management of the other parks, which would be quite nice in some ways, if that was decided, then we would actually get the additional funding to do that, which could run to additional staff or whatever is needed. So these sort of things, there really is an opportunity to take charge of things. And again, as I said before, I think we need to formally engage in the process, and at least we can see what opportunities there are, and we can try and take whatever action we can.
Moving forward, obviously, our next meeting is full council, is not till April, and this will be a fait accompli by then. So really, we need to do something now where we do, as you say, engage. So is there some way we can actually get that going?
Could I recommend that, Mr. Mayor, you write to the leader of the county council at this moment, perhaps, and copy the leader of the district council, saying that we, town council, should be more involved, and we would be willing to take more powers in a change structure.
That's everybody.
Could we also be asking about how the people of Droitwich are going to get more of a say in this?
Yes.
Because at the moment, I just feel this is being not only done to us, it's being done to the people of Droitwich. And let's be clear, this white paper has no consultation whatsoever as part of it. It's literally being top-down forced. So the people who tell us they want local people to have more say are basically giving local people zero say. And I think that needs to be strongly made. And obviously I would still push the bits I talked about the, as a group, are we happy about the fact there's going to be no elections and that we're going to have unelected people making decisions on our behalf? So I'll not keep on repeating myself, but I think I'm getting the point across.
Is it actually certain we're not going to have elections?
Well, no,
we know that.
No, I mean, that depends on the government's response, but it's likely that their response will be to do that, because obviously it's facilitating the process they want to see. But as regards ourselves, I think again, it's apart from obviously expressing an interest, which is not a policy decision of this council, so obviously we can do that straight away. Express an interest, and but I think then we look to see what happens, because we will learn, and I think there's some training or some information going to be given from CALP shortly, but we can find out. Once we know a lot more about what's our position, where are we, then obviously we can get together and plan how to do the best.
Could we not have a poll straw, not a real vote, a poll straw of who wants asking you to write on various issues? So, for example, for the town council to take a position on whether we should have a vote, elections come May. Because obviously I think we should, and it would just be, I think, fair for you to have that behind you to take forward to the leaders of the county council, to say that as town council, we think that the people of Droitwich do or do not have that say.
I think whilst
we can still engage, whether we're asking about voting and stuff like that, we can still engage. That's a separate issue.
Yeah, well, I think that's the important thing, because whether we like it or not, and whatever we think of that process, it's happened, as you heard from Councillor Morris, there was that absolutely short short time to get anything done, and that's why obviously that action had to be taken. And again, we don't, whilst we might like to think we don't have a say in the process, and rather than waste, and yes, express a sentiment, but rather than waste time on it, I'd much rather we just got on with things that we may be able to do and try to make the most of them.
Can I just correct, because the press was really wrong, in fact. the headline was, leader of the county council put a letter in to suspend elections. The suspension of the elections was decided on the fact if you did an expression of interest in the first tranche, it was the leader that was saying, because it's going to be dictated to us, we want it in our hands, we'll put them to go in the first tranche. That then, according to Jean McMahon, the minister, meant that the elections would be suspended. So he wasn't calling for suspension of the elections. It was a result of being in the first tranche of the elections. And Councillor Brooks is quite right, that is not an absolute yet. It's only if the government accepts that Worcestershire would be in that first tranche. If they come back and say, no, we don't want you in the first tranche, then we want elections.
And how long would it be before we know this?
They say by the end of January.
Yeah.
So it's fairly quick again.
Can I just have something on the CALC?
Yes.
Yeah, I did send something out to all members last week on the CALC update. They're rolling out from next week. It's a half-day workshop just for officers at this stage, but we should know a lot more about the changes and the processes and the potential impact of that. Katie, myself and Jane are going to the first one. It's 4th of February at Wychavon Civic Centre. It's half a day, and it's being facilitated by Chris Wayman, CEO at CALC. He was town clerk in the North East and also at Buckingham when they both went unitary in his previous role. So he has got good experience of good, bad, indifferent, and how this will affect town and parish levels. But when I spoke to Chris last Tuesday on that and other issues, he said he was keen to come out to the blocks very quickly on how that change process will affect towns and parishes specifically. Hence, those dates arriving literally the next day. So we're registered on there. What we will have is probably need for an extraordinary meeting of full council over the next month, 6 weeks, I would think, because we need a separate resolution for the neighbourhood plan. And that's just basically to ratify it. We can't do that until it comes back from what they call environmental screening. 3/4 of that process has already been done, apparently by Wychavon. So when that comes back, we need that rubber stamp. So that if there is any proposal that needs to be put forward then and voted on, that can be an agenda item at that meeting as well. But we will at least know a lot more after that 4th of February session. So we could also download any materials and communications that we're provided with. As I say, it's a 3-hour meeting, so he's going to go into it in a lot of detail.
Presumably you will report back to everybody.
Yeah.
So is there some mileage?
That's the intention of these forums.
So is there some mileage in having a meeting amongst various people, take the leaders of the different groups to discuss it, and please report back to them as well on top of that? I think that might be
My thoughts on an extraordinary meeting on the NDP before we get on to unitary is we put on the calendar extra community and amenities and resources meetings through February, March. And the reason we did that was the level of business, there's a lot of CNA to come up. And also we have this year-on problem getting payments authorised right up to the year end on the 31st of March for the gap in meetings. So if we had cause for an extraordinary meeting, we could do it on the night of the scheduled meeting for the committees, either before or after, and restrict it to unitary and neighbourhood plan. So we've got that opportunity through February, through March. Generally, February and March were quite sparse on meetings, but because we're doing more projects, doing more, we've already put those in. So it wouldn't be a problem to add on an extraordinary meeting, start earlier or after the committee.
Does that meet with everybody's approval as a way forward?
Agreed.
I think we'll be better informed in that position.
It's very important that we do something. I completely agree with most of what you said, actually. So, yes, okay, that's fine. We're only halfway through the county council matters. We're now on to you, Richard, for your bits of it.
So continuation with good news. So I thought I'd say a bit about county's budget. So the county council is facing a 33.6 million funding gap. So the council is to ask the government for a capitalisation direction. The council is facing relentless demand and cost pressures in 3 key areas: children's social care placements, home to school travel and adult social care. with increasing demand and limited supply, so there's rising costs. These are issues suffered by all upper tier authorities across the country and our statutory responsibilities. The recent budget, with the living wage increase and the national insurance contributions, are only adding to this, unfortunately. So where things are demand-led, it's, and you're setting a budget, and I have to say it is an escalating demand. I'm cabinet member for adult social care. The biggest cost for adult social care, the biggest increase in cost, is 18 to 25-year-olds, not your older people, which most people would think. 18 to 25, because a lot of them are coming from children's services, where there's been an escalation of costs, passing into adulthood in terms of, so it's learning disabilities, mental health. They're seeing the biggest rises in costs. Learning disabilities, you try and find somewhere that supports the diverse range of learning disabilities there are. There's unlimited suppliers. So what the providers do is yank the costs up, and we have to pay the costs if we want to look after that vulnerable person, which is our goal. So financial support is approved by government ministers. The county council will receive a capitalisation direction, so described by the Institute of Government as a move that allows them to sell assets or borrow to fund day-to-day costs. So it's a bit like an overdraft. So the government will give us an overdraft, is what we're hoping. 19 councils across England secured such support in 24-25, and many, many more are expected to come forward this year. The centralisation direction is a financial support tool that allows local authorities to treat some revenue costs as capital, which is also known as exceptional financial support. So, in effect, we are asking the government for exceptional financial support. Added to these issues, the county have received one of the lowest government settlements this year for many years, as the government has focused their support on metropolitan areas. In giving grants this time round, the new government, they built in the criteria of deprivation. That deprivation can only be succeeded by metropolitan areas. So all rural areas and all county areas are at the wrong end, and effectively they've lost out compared to previous years because the money's gone through for those larger metropolitan areas. So that's all added to the gap in the funding issue. Unitary is not an answer to solve these issues, by the way. One of the worst performing councils is Shropshire, which is already unitary. So don't think that this is all badged up in unitary to try and sort the financial issues. The only way the financial issues will be sorted, and many governments have put it into the long grass, is by central policy. And what did this government do as soon as it got in? It decided not to put a cap on adult social care, which was one of the plans that was there. It's going to cost £1.1 billion. And they've commissioned a new report which will not be read or released until 2028. 2028, right by another election. So again, further going into the long grass. Everything is known about adult social care and children's services that is needed to be known. There are many reports. It just needs decisions to be made, in effect. So that's it on the budget, what I was going to say. So then secondly is County Hall. Many of us know that we have this magnificent building in Worcester called County Hall. So Worcestershire County Hall building has been completely shut since the Legionella bacteria was found in June after reinforced autoclaved and aerated concrete rack was found and access to areas of the building were restricted. The Legionella was a result of the rack because it meant people couldn't go upstairs and do all the checks on the water supply, so that wasn't being done, and then Legionella resulted. So rack is the issue. Rack is a lightweight material that was used mostly in flat roofing, a lot of the schools, but also in floors and walls between 1950 and 1990. Parts of County Hall have been closed since September 2023 after the potentially dangerous concrete was found, but after exploratory work concluded the repairs would be significantly more expensive. So we can't afford the repairs effectively. So the council will not be operating from County Hall in terms of our operational headquarters in the future. Simon Geraghty, leader of the council, said we won't be looking to go back into County Hall. Cabinet will have to make a decision as to what we do in the future, we need to review its future use, probably for disposal or an alternative use. So, in effect, county councillors are operating from a smaller building in Wildwood Way, which is near County Hall. And it's actually a very good building and open plan, which works well. Again, the front door teams for adult social care and children's services now sit side by side, which they didn't in County Hall, and they're able to communicate a lot better. So there are benefits that come out of this, and even though it could be considered a difficult situation. So there is no doubt that County Hall has been fully vacated and will be disposed of at some stage in the future, I have no doubt. But that again leads us into the unitary and sets us up well in some ways of operating with 6 districts and more cohesively in many ways. So that's it on that. The third one was divisional funds, and I will hand these out. Maybe not too many that way, or that way. So I've updated, as I've been spending the 10,000 divisional funds. I think the only one I need to confirm is the final payment of the 10,000, right at the bottom, which is £3,000. What I'm looking to do there, over time I've had a lot of complaints about the green banks by West Acre School and parents driving on to the green areas and particularly over the pathways, which is very dangerous for school children. So I will be looking to put small bollards or posts up there to stop people going over the grass, which will create a parking issue, I have no doubt, for drop off at school. But it will be safeguarding the pathways, the safety for youngsters going to school, and the grassed area. It'll be done in phases, so this is only going to be funding the part from the traffic lights further up towards Ledbridge, and then in future years, I would hope, if possible, to go further in the other direction to safeguard it. It's amazing how costly these things are.
Thank you very much, Richard. Any questions on all that? Yes, Councillor Duffy.
Just a thank you for making the hard decision around on your last item for a change to the church on that roadway. It's as you say, a problem that's plagued the west of Droitwich for a long time, and it can be a concern of moving traffic along and then creating dangerous areas elsewhere. But that one is a particularly difficult one. It'd be if there's any look to work with the high school on finding alternate parking and traffic arrangements, I'll be very keen to lend a hand.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, there was some controversy about the last outdoor cinema. Is this one going to be further away from the houses?
This wasn't the Wychhaven Outdoor Cinema, this was just one for Saltfest, it was on Vines.
Oh.
Yeah, so it was just the kids on during the Saltfest.
Okay, any more questions? Thank you for that. You were going to do some time on that item, 40 minutes, yes. That's the longest we've ever spent on county council matters. District council matters, who's doing this one?
I have to say this one, it will be much shorter. Well, unless anyone particularly wants to take part in statistics. Excitingly, Wychhaven's resident survey results for 2024 have come in. Hopefully this is all good evidence that Wychhaven should be taking strong lead on any unitary plans. Headline questions. So 82% of residents within Wychhaven satisfied with the local area as a place to live. This is up from 79% in 2023. 72% are satisfied with how Wychhaven District Council run things, up from 64%. 53% agree we provide value for money, up from 51%. And 64% agree we act on concerns of residents, this is up from 61%. 75% agree we residents informed about our services, up from 69%. And 57% rate us as good or very good, with little change from last year. 90% feel safe in local area during the day and the night, and 65% during the dark evening, both up from 2023. And then we have a bunch more on specific services, so I'll go through just the best and the lowest. So 93% said they were satisfied with our waste and recycling services, whilst 90% said our parks and open spaces were very satisfied. 88% said Wychavon runs sports and leisure facilities well, and 84% said Wychavon car parks were well run. This was the first year of that being us. On the lower side, as many can probably guess, planning and building control came up worse with 45% satisfaction. A difficult one, as has been said before, with so much for control centric. And I'm just going up there. And 61% said housing services, housing support services were less than satisfactory, which, although down from 65% in the previous year, is still a good chunk above half, and it's still a very difficult part of Wychavon's area of control. Whilst dealing with statistics, we're going to much more local level. The results from the drug, which, sorry, the phone keeps changing where I scroll to on my page. We have the results from the Drug Spa Lido consultation, with, I think, a rather amazing 44,000 reach across social media, 2,761 views to the dedicated consultation page, and more than 100 people attended the information day at the Drugs Library. And there have been 685 formal responses received, as well as hundreds of comments across social media. So every one of these comments will be read and analysed to see how the public are feeling about plans for improvements over the line. Hopefully everyone had a chance to put in their response as well. But looks like it'll be a very well-informed by the public project. And I believe at our last meeting, I updated on the works going on to the Raven with the scaffolding going up. Hopefully all have seen it stay secure from what I've seen. I don't believe we've had any behavioural difficulties around it. I think it was a strong worry that it may become a bit of a climbing frame. But from what we've seen, it seems to have gone well.
Thank you, Councillor Franks.
I think,
And then Councillor
I
Davidson.
think,
I think it was about meeting two here. Councillor Davidson first, then Councillor Franks.
Whereas the Raven is being made safe now, Droitwich people still want an answer to what's going on with it. What's happening with property developers, when's building going to commence?
Questions that we as Wychavon councillors, I think, are still very eager to hear as well. In terms of plans in place, the ongoing activity hasn't changed. The planning permission, which is now fully in place, has been, I think, since July.
But the planning permission, in my mind, is we've got a proposal of planning to go through the brine baths to go into the Lido. So in effect, the planning permission on the Raven will change because most of the conditions on the planning application were to do with the Raven, the brine bath, sorry. So in our own minds, we know that's going to change. So they're going to have to reapply for planning, which is going to take another length of time.
I think that's probably likely. Luckily, with planning, individual conditions in smaller parts that I believe can be updated without having to have the entire planning application restarted and redone. Depending on the processes that go forward, with Wychavon having to have taken a lead on the repairs, this may affect the building and the site further. On the installation of the scaffolding. But ultimately, the exact details of the planning application is up to the developer. So it's whether they go for a change I should think if the Lido goes ahead with Brian Bass there, then I would expect them to change. But again, we can't really predict what that would be. I think that would come from the business interest they would get. I think if there's views on what we think would work well there, it's something we could certainly put forward. But I think that would come more as a case for them to bring to other investors as to what businesses the people of Droitwich would be interested in seeing there.
And will the taxpayer know about the cost it's going to make that safe?
I don't know if that's been released from Wychavon at the moment, but that is entirely recoverable from the.
But will we know what the bill is?
I should think that will be released in time. It's certainly something that can ask to be released in time. That may come after the after it's been resolved between Wychavon and the developer.
And is there a length of time for plan of works?
I don't know if the further plan works. I know that the order that Wychavon got from the courts was just for the scaffolding. So whether there's further work will depend on the state of things inside and what the developer does next in terms of working with Wychavon to recoup those costs.
Thank you. Councillor Davison and Councillor Frank.
Yeah, I was just wondering, the statistics, the satisfaction about Wychavon, was that the whole of Wychavon, including places like Broadway and so on?
Yes, so the resident survey covers any resident within Wychavon. I think usually gets quite a good spread of results.
So how many people were involved in it?
So have a check. So 1,458 residents participating.
Out of the whole
Results were very
Wychavon.
positive and showed improvements in levels of satisfaction compared
What's the population of Wychavon?
a lot higher. But
127,000. I rest my case. Councillor Frank, then Councillor Morris.
So, when we get the statutory authority, you could get that from just the councillors on the council.
I've got one question, one point to bring up and something to add. So the question is there similar statistics done for the other district councils that we can compare directly against?
It's a very good question. I'm not entirely sure.
We all have surveys, I don't know whether they're the same survey.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how comparable they are. I suppose how satisfied are you with your council would probably come up in each case, but
Just the employees.
it would just be interesting to know how we do compare, because obviously if we're getting sort of 72% satisfaction and Register's getting, I'm sure they do wonderful, but I'm making up the number, 59%, it would just be interesting to know how we do compare. You mentioned about the Raven, the scaffolding, it's great that, as you say, though, I've not heard of any other issues up here, except for I went for a walk with residents the other night, and they have some concerns about the lighting in the town centre. I've mentioned before the town council, Gurney's Lane and Saltbarrow Way. The district council does now have the funding and everything in agreement, so now the contractors are going ahead with it, so that should hopefully be sorted in the next month or two. But at the Raven, one of the lights has been covered up, so it creates a bit of a dark patch as you walk them down there. So I was just wondering, it's probably county council.
No, to switch above raised that, how dark it is, they're going to put lights on the scaffolding.
Oh, brilliant, thank you very much. I just hadn't quite got around to it, sorting it out myself. The only thing I wanted to add to district council matters is I was lucky enough to be in a meeting about a week or two ago. It was all to do with the new splash pad that's being done next to the tennis courts. Got to see the design, probably sneak you a picture if you want to have a look afterwards. To me, it looks fantastic. It really looks, there was two sort of designs. It was definitely the second design we're all behind. There's going to be some steps coming down the bank from where the main path is from the running through. and then it's going to open up, and there's going to be two sort of paths on the other side, also sort of wheelchair users, etc., can easily access it at that point. Fantastic stuff. The interjections I made were there's a sort of a stone thing with a bit of a bank on it, just to make sure it was wheelchair accessible, so more inclusive. I got another feature sort of put on. But the one I thought you might like was that they've got this build. One of the sort of activities is like a water feature, is like a building that they put up, and they do it. They've done it in Evesham, and they pick on a famous landmark in the area, and they've done the chateau. And I said, well, I asked, well, can I have the chateau on one side, but can we have the raven on the other side? So they're now going to look at doing that. So.
Of course, the chateau is not only not enjoyable, it's not even in the constituency.
Yeah.
It's
True, but it is still quite nice.
Yeah, that sounds good. 133,000 population of Whitchurch. Councillor Morris, you had a.
I saw they were thinking of the raven from your responses. Just thought there might be some cynical responses.
Oh, there's one more thing. Sorry, it was just the you might have seen it pop up on social media now. The Vines Park is getting the new metal statue. So yes, that's coming along as well.
Good, thank you. Thank you for those reports from anybody.
Well, mine is just to update. I don't know what people have seen about Morrison's car park and the pay and display machines, because we've got problems with the pay and display machines, vandalism, but also the broadband connection for Ringo and everything. There are real issues, and it's not easy getting replacements, and then the people that can replace them. So until the issues are resolved, Morrison's car park will be free. We're hoping that will only be to Friday, but it may be longer.
So currently Whitchurch, Waitrose car park's free, and Morrison, is that right?
That's correct.
Right.
Public authority.
Any more points on the reports? Thank you very much. Item 13 is accounts of payment. I'll have a mover that we accept these. Thank you, Councillor Brooks, and seconder, Councillor Duffy, and all those in favour? Anybody against? Item 14 is to consider the exclusion of the public and the press. That the press and the public be now excluded from the meeting under the provision of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 by virtue of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, which involves financial and legal matters. Well, what should we do?